Electrocast.
Why wait to see if you'll get something you like this Valentine's Day when you can go to BlueNile.com and find something you'll love? Whether you're looking to treat yourself to a little winter sparkle or show a galentine how much you appreciate them, Blue Nile offers a wide selection of high-quality designs, expert guidance, and free 30-day returns for the ultimate peace of mind. You can even design your own jewelry. Right now, save up to 50% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
On this episode of Missing the Point, we're joined once again by returning guest Josue Pavón from Heavy.com, CLSN Media, the Cedric Maxwell podcast, and Causeway Street podcast to help us put this 2021 Boston Celtics season to bed. We'll examine the recent Celtics front office moves and preview potential offseason moves to improve the team for 2022. This is Missing the Point, episode 66, but it's all relative.
Welcome to Missing the Point. I am your host, Rayshawn Buchanan, with my guys, the real BK, Bob Kelly, Magic Mike, Marcangelo, and our executive producer, Craig D'Alessandro. So today we are bringing back someone that, you know, we had to have Celtics therapy with him in the past. We had to have Celtics therapy tonight. You can hear him on The Locker Room. He's a writer for Heavy.com, and he is the co-host of the Cedric Maxwell podcast. My man, Josue Pavón. Welcome back, man. How you doing?
Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for bringing me back, man. There's a lot to discuss, right? Crazy week.
Crazy week, crazy year. Like I said, I think we were somewhat optimistic. I think I won't say as optimistic, because we would talk to you right before the draft, and they had just lost to Miami, and we had a lot of questions. 8 months later, we still have a lot of questions. So so we're gonna use this as a therapy session. So last time I spoke to you last week, man, and we had talked the day that the news came down that Danny Ainge is now stepping down, and Brad Stevens is now going into that role as the president of basketball operations. So, we'll get right into it, man. So does Danny Ainge leaving make it easier for someone like Brad Stevens to start making deals with other teams in the NBA?
I mean, I guess so. I guess it makes it easier for him because, if you ask me, I think Brad Stevens had a lot to say in the decisions that Danny made. But this offseason could be the outlier. We're not quite sure how Brad Stevens felt about the signing of Jeff Teague and Christian Thompson and moves that could have happened during last summer that didn't happen. I mean, we're not quite sure. So obviously Brad's now in that position to, mold this roster the best way he sees fit, which I think it's a good thing. I really do. I was shocked and surprised more about him. I think I was more shocked about envisioning Brad Stevens not coaching. I just thought that was really odd, for him to be in this position. But it makes sense for this organization. I think his contract extension last year has a lot to do with this. I mean, to be frank, if you're a businessman, running an organization, I mean, the thing is twofold, right? Obviously to go out and get a new GM is going to cost them quite a bit. And to let Brad Stevens go and, risk him coaching another team, I just don't think the Celtics were in a position to do that. They're like, man, we got this guy locked in. We see his vision. We appreciate his knowledge, but we're not quite sure if this locker room is going to listen to him next year. And that's absolutely understandable. The reason why I bring up the contract extension is because I think it does play a part here. But at the same time, Brad Stevens, I mean, who's better to find out or at least try his best to give these guys what they need than the coach that was in that locker room the last 7 seasons, So I do think that that's significant as well. Does he have a lot of experience in this position? No, absolutely not. But I trust his expertise in the sense of evaluating talent coming in. Obviously, he has a collegiate background, which plays a big part in this. And I think that he can get to the root of what this team needs to be successful. And I think a lot of that has to do with guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, obviously, right? I mean, I think those two all-stars, they have to have a say in the direction that this team is going in. And I think Brad Stevens is the kind of GM, or is going to be the kind of, president of basketball operations, who's going to use those guys as the proper resources. I mean, he has to. They have to go into this new era of Celtics basketball with those guys, obviously, one at the forefront, but two, on the same exact page as to what's going to make this team better. And of course, what's going to make them better players moving forward. not quite sure. And we talked about this a little bit. Not quite sure, like those two, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I mean, obviously they've proven that they can be, successful in their own right. But how are they going to make this team successful? How are they going to make this team whole? I think that's a lot of what Brad Stevens can help, throughout this summer, and of course moving forward into this new era.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I got to ask you something based off something you said a little bit ago when you were talking about how no one talked about Game 5. You know what I mean? Like, as soon as this news came out, it was like Game 5 didn't even happen. Do you think the timing of that had to have been on purpose, right? I mean, obviously, they already had a bad taste in their mouth from the season. Doing it at that time and then having it just like you said, is like that series never even happened. Do you think that's something that they planned out going, they said they had this plan for weeks. Is that something that they were like, okay, we need to get this going as soon as the season's over so we can get the entire fan base looking forward instead of back at this shit show?
I think absolutely. Yeah, I think that's true. I don't think this was a swift decision when they thought that, Danny, needs to be removed and that they're going to come to an agreement, make it sound like that he wasn't fired. I think this is genuine when Danny says that this was something that was on his mind. I mean, shit, he hinted at it on 98.5, about one of the last weeks of the regular season where he admitted to thinking about it. I mean, when someone admits something like that, that means that that's coming soon. I thought it was going to come within the next summer, but obviously that wasn't the case. So I think this is something that they had pre-planned. They wanted to get it out there as soon as they were eliminated. And I think that was the right thing to do. For Brad Stevens to get to work here, so to speak, and try to find a head coach is a big, big task, a tall task rather. And I know he just finished his round of interviews from, guys from within the organization, internal, but I would really like to see them, look outside. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, what Brad Stevens was doing didn't quite work. I just think that I do think Brad's going to have a lot to say with, the direction that this team goes in, but I also think that the head coach is crucial as well. So, you have to make sure it's someone that these guys truly believe in. And again, I do believe, Tatum and Brown should have some say in that decision. I'm not saying that you have to listen to them, but you have to let them in on those conversations. And everyone has to be open and out front as to what exactly went wrong last year, outside of COVID-19 protocol, health and safety protocol, and of course, the slew of injuries that rattled the entire roster.
I mean, so I was going to say this for later, but given what you just said about the head coaching vacancy, right? I think that this is like the most intriguing vacancy and the most intriguing crop of candidates that we've seen in probably the last 5 years or so. So, what are the odds that Brad selects someone like a Kara Lawson or a Becky Hammon for this role, or even like a Sam Cassell, or do you think he stays internal?
I think there's a good chance he'll look outside. Again, I just think another voice in this locker room could really go a long way with these guys. And not to say that, Jay Larranaga and Jerome Allen are exactly like Brad Stevens, but there are voices that they've heard a lot throughout that locker room. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe one of those guys is someone that stands out and that the team truly believes in. But I also think that they could go, radical with this one or rather progressive with this one. I wouldn't shock me if they hire a female coach. I mean, Becky Hammond's another candidate. I mean, to your point there, yeah, absolutely. I can't remember the last time we saw not only one, but two female candidates that are legitimately, being discussed as top candidates for that position. I think a lot of that has to do with obviously Becky's background, but in terms of Kara Lawson, it has to do with what the impact she made on this team. This team, a lot of players were in tears when she left, when she accepted the Duke position, and obviously it's a huge job. Great spot for her to head into NCAA and lead women's basketball team. But I really wish she stayed in that bubble, for selfish purposes. I mean, I just think that maybe this could have been more of the writing on the wall. I don't say that people are going to be like, everyone expected Brad Stevens to get fired. But I just think that little time that she spent with the team went a long way. And to see that emotion come for these players, guys like Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, that says a lot. I give them a hard time, maybe not Marcus, but more to Jaylen and Tatum about, showing attitude and showing more emotion. And, to see that strong of an emotion, to see these guys get emotional for her to leave them, I thought that spoke volumes. So I think she does have a legitimate chance. And I also think that for this team wouldn't surprise me because I just think that, one, this is a younger squad, obviously one of the youngest teams, if not the youngest team in the NBA. So I think it's another generation thing where I think they're able to look past the gender, aspect of this thing. I think guys like Jaylen and Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum, I don't think that they're, I think that's a legitimate concern for some teams, but not this team. Okay. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And what I mean by that is managing strong personalities. I'm not quite sure there's a player on this team that I think is too strong for, that could be, abrasive or, there could be some sort of friction, and not because she's a female, but because of her experience. Now that could also, be tough for her and her chances of getting the job. But again, what she's done with the team, I think it goes a long way. So I do think she's a legitimate candidate. And also someone like Sam Cassell and Chauncey Billups, former players, I think would be great. Tatum and Brown, guys who came into this league, and let's face it, they're in very, very successful situations. They haven't missed a postseason. Regardless of what role they were in, they've been thrusted into postseason basketball since the very beginning. That wasn't the case with Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups really was the underdog coming out, of coming into the NBA, traded halfway through. Of course, he was from the Boston Celtics, had to really make a name for himself, made stops in Denver before eventually getting to Detroit and finding that role. And let's talk about the Detroit Pistons. I mean, that team, talk about a team. Everyone knew their role. Everyone knew that it took a full effort night in and night out to beat 4 future Hall of Famers in the Los Angeles Lakers. Man, that was one heck of an upset in the NBA Finals. Sign me up for that guy, because I think he has a lot to say that could really resonate with these guys. And of course, not only does he have the basketball resume, but he also has been assistant coach for quite some time now. So Chauncey Billups is more than ready to make that step and become a head coach in the NBA for sure. Sorry, I got a lot to say, man. It's just a lot. It's been a lot.
Man. Listen,
let it go, man. Let it rip.
Listen, not only are we all for it, but I'm going to make you talk even more because I'm asking questions based off that. So I got honestly like a 3-tier question for you. So you talk a lot about Tatum and Brown. These guys are going to have a say. Completely agree. I think especially Tatum has earned that, and I think he showed that he is the future of this franchise. There's no doubt about it anymore.
Absolutely. So he went up another notch in that playoff series. Just want to say that real quick. Like that's the one silver lining. That's the one, for Celtics fans. Like, okay, he went toe to toe with Durant.
So yes, thank you for saying that. Thank you.
And he held his own. Like that's much
out of all the shitty season, the one thing I'm gonna remember is that Jason Tatum went head to head with Kevin Durant and beat him. So couldn't agree more. So based off of that, Tatum and Brown, who do you think they want? I know you're around them a lot, or like you've talked to them before. So like just based off their feelings, who do you think they want? Second, who do you think is the best qualified, and who do you think is going to get it?
Oh man, put me on the spot.
I'm putting you on the spot, man.
You know what? I want to say Chauncey. You could tell that's my favorite. Carol Lawson's up there too as well. Those are my 2 favorites out of this first, batch, of potential coaches for the Celtics. But I'm gonna give the edge to Chauncey, just because again, I mean, I think the organization, you can even put Cassell in there as well, but more Chauncey, right? I just think the organization, they understand how significant that is, his basketball background, his resume. And I think these guys know as well. I mean, Jason Tatum, I always say, Tatum's like an old soul, man. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that this guy is not even 25 years old. And, and he grew up, idolizing Kobe Bryant. It wouldn't shock me if he's seen a good chunk of, Detroit basketball, maybe at a very young age, but I'm sure he's gone back and done his homework. And I just think it's a great match. So I'm going to say that these guys like Tatum and Brown, they're going to want a former player. I don't know if Chauncey's going to be the first name out of their mouths, but I definitely think that that's a good fit for this organization, or at least how they want to proceed with these guys, of course, leading the way. And, Carol Lawson also is in the mix as well. But just because of, you got guys like Jason Kidd, obviously, has had a chance. We saw what Brooklyn Nets did with Steve Nash. I mean, let's face it, these guys pretty much handpicked their head coach. So I think a little bit of that is a reason why, if I had to predict it, they would go in that direction. Not because they want to copy the Brooklyn Nets, but I just think that we've seen it happen. And I think those voices, they really resonate with this younger generation for sure.
You mentioned Jason Kidd, right? And he's had a lot of coaching interviews like with Portland because of what's happened in his past. Why would that prevent him from getting a new job while he's still gamefuly employed?
Wait, what do you mean? If I'm not mistaken, he just threw it out there that he had no interest in the Portland Trailblazers job.
Well, no, there were a ton of articles that came out the last couple of days that say that his past, his domestic violence past, is what's canceled him from these vacancies. Now, if that's not true, then we can strike this in the record book. But I was just curious, why would that keep him from a new coaching job while he's still actively employed by the NBA?
You know what? You bring up a really good point, honestly, because that was something that obviously crossed my mind when he was starting to get those assistant coaching positions, and no one really brought it up. And I guess it's like Is that the top of the line for him? Because I don't think that's right, to be honest. It's got to be one way or the other. You know, that's a really good point that you bring up. You know, if either you're an assistant, you know, either you're coaching in the NBA or you're not. So if that's the case, I don't think that's fair for the Portland Trailblazers. You know, the way I saw it was I thought he was trying to get, you know, trying to get it out there before they even, you know, called him before he's even a candidate. But, you know, maybe that has something to do with it. Obviously, it's something that's been brought up. I mean, there's some reporters in Boston that as soon as his name was brought up as a potential candidate, that was what they said. And I know I'm not just talking about fans. I'm talking about, you know, members in the media. So I do think that's not gonna bode well for his chances. But honestly, I'm just not crazy about Jason Kidd coaching this team. I don't think he's the one. I mean, I'm not crazy about it. I don't think that's the voice that they need.
So I got to be honest, right? So obviously I'm a big Dame guy. Me and Bobby both are big Dame guys. If that meant that we could have got Dame, hey, bring him on. If you want to fire him after the All-Star break, if that brought Damian Lillard to Boston and it's Dame time, I'm here for it.
Yeah, but if Dame doesn't want to go, and then you stuck with Jason Kidd, man, that's not good.
Well, no, that's true. But he did no facts. But he did say. He's like, I would want Jason Kidd as a coach. So if that's the case, cool. Come on down, number 5. Come on down. Listen, you did enough for beating us in the postseason back in the day. Come on down, bring us over, bring Dame over here. You know, Brackett have to sit down with him and say, you know what, Jason, we thought, you know, just kidding, so to speak, right? We're gonna let you go, brother. And you know, and it's cool. But I just need Dame here and Green. That's what I'm here for, because the Kemba Walker era. It's got to go. In the words of Kenny Smith, it's over, ladies and gentlemen. It's over.
Yeah, but you know, from the moment Dame says I want to be traded, there's going to be 17 teams behind the Celtics with their best offers. So you know, Jaylen Brown is going to have to headline that deal, man.
Yeah,
that's the thing. That's the thing. I mean, if you're willing to make that move, if Celtics fans, if they're okay with that, I mean, then that's a whole nother different conversation. But I just don't think realistically we're going to see a big 3 with Dame Lillard, because it's going to be at least a handful of teams that can top that offer. Who's the best player Celtics are sending over? You know, Kemba. You know, maybe a sign and trade with Evan Fournier, Marcus Smart.
Whatever they want.
Portland's gonna be like, yo, what else you guys got? Are you serious right now? Come on, man. We're in tears right now. We're saying our goodbyes to this dude.
Listen, whatever they want. Listen, Terry Stark's already gone. Listen, CJ gonna be gone too. CJ ain't gonna be he ain't gonna be there much longer. Like that. Listen, that team has been together for 9 or 10 years, and they have not done anything. It's time to blow it up. It's okay. And once again, I know Dame signed that 4-year deal for $191 a couple years ago. I get that. It's going to be hard to move, but listen, he's not going to the Knicks. I mean, I know, I'm sure LeBron will say, hey man, you know, I'll use this Space Jam, but come to the real Space Jam out of LA. I get it, but that's not that doesn't mean that's necessarily going to happen. I'm just saying, listen, man, if they want my niece and nephew, like whoever they want, I'm here.
I'll drop to Logan.
When I drop it off at Logan, I'll be right there with, like I said, with my watch. I got a pair of Dame shoes in my closet, so I'm at the crib. So Dame, listen, if you ever hear this, brother, I am all in on you coming here to Boston. Like I think he'd be great. Like I said, I'm out on the Kemba Walker era. Love him as a personality, you know. But I mean, listen, man, you brought up about Jaylen Brown. You know, Celtics fans happy about that. Because we haven't talked to you obviously since October, but would you have been happy if Jaylen Brown got moved for James Harden? Because there's some people on this panel that didn't want to. So no. Okay. So
no, absolutely not. See, what people is easy to forget when you watch what the Brooklyn Nets are doing or what they did throughout the course of the regular season is that you got a motivated James Harden, right? I mean, he looks to his left, he's got Kevin Durant. He looks to his right, he's got Kyrie Irving. He's that. What was it? 18 assists against the Celtics in one of those games. That's light work, man. That's nothing to him.
Facts.
Like, that's a motivated James Harden. If that Harden faced any kind of adversity in Boston, I don't know if you get the same effect. You know, I don't know if you get the same result. You may get Houston Rockets 2020 James Harden. You know, James Harden, you know what? Man, I'm going to go down to Providence? Is that the best strip clubs around here? I'm going to go to Providence. I'll check y'all later. See you guys. Like, if that happens, you guys would be like, you know, not just you, everyone would be like, what a colossal mistake. Why did they trade Jaylen Brown for this freaking loser? You know what I mean? Like, and listen, maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe it doesn't. But you mean to tell me there's no risk of that?
Right. No, sure the risk, but
huge risk.
But my thing is, we've been saying, and there's fans that want change here. Like we've been saying, oh, fire the coach or fire Danny. Okay, that's happened now. Danny's gone. Brad's moved on to end the coaching, but it's like, yo, maybe the roster that's currently constructed is not working either. This is like the best roster we had was that 2017-2018 team. Like that to me, that's not debatable. Even though the most fun team was the year before in 2016-2017, the year that, unfortunately, IT lost his sister, and then maybe, hey man, they still got to the conference finals. Hey, so I mean, say what but yeah, that they was,
Speaking of Dame's season, that was the last time a Celtics player averaged 29 points, man. That was crazy. Isaiah.
It was unbelievable there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Top 5 in MVP voting. So yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, I get it. Like I said, I mean, Mike was smiling as you were saying that no to James Harden, because he's been saying no to James Harden since December when the trade happened. But
it's tempting. In retrospect, it's tempting. It's really tempting to go back in time. It's really tempting, but step away from the DeLorean. All right, don't go back in time. Don't change it. All right. Don't go to that time machine.
I do have a question just based on like what Ray just said and what you said. What are the odds that Jalen and Jason don't reach their full potential on the same team?
I think that's very possible. That could certainly happen. I mean, when you look at their contract extensions, I think it's a little deceiving, because if we're still looking at a 500 team in 10 months from now or so, like, who's to say that one of these guys is going to say, you know what, it's not working here. I'm not quite sure I want to be here anymore. I mean, that could very well happen for sure. So that's why this offseason is really important. But at the same time, I don't think this organization is in the space where they're like, you know what, it's time to split these guys up. No, absolutely not. They've worked very hard to get to this point. One, getting the draft picks right. I mean, they're one Markel fault away from blowing this whole thing up, from ruining the entire rebuild, like Jaylen Brown. One dragon bender from ruining the entire rebuild. Oh, crap. If Kyrie Irving...
Josh Jackson too. Oh my God.
I mean, let's face it. Jaylen Brown, I don't want to put it this way, but this is the best way I could put it. For him to survive that Kyrie Irving experience and not be so turned off that was a blessing as well. To sign him for that contract extension, I think it's a bargain.
Team friendly for sure.
Team friendly for sure. Yeah. Moving forward, you got to do the best you can to supplement talent around these guys. And, of course, they're going to do their best to try to trade Kemba Walker, but it's not going to be easy. They're going to try their best to consolidate, 3 or 4 of these bench players into one, solid player that they can certainly rely on, but that's not going to be easy as well. Look, for the topic of trading Kemba Walker, I put it like this. If the Celtics are to trade someone like Kemba Walker, they're going to get a situation that's Kemba Walker-like in return. That's the only way a team will accept something like that. I don't know. Kristaps Porzingis is the name that's out there. Like, is OKC still trying to get like 25 first-round picks? I don't know. Al Horford. I mean, look, this is the situation that the Celtics are in. This is realistic. These are realistic options of how to get from under that Kemba Walker contract, but it's not going to be easy. Kristaps Porzingis has more money on his books than Kemba Walker does. Al Horford has the extra year, but at least it dips down to $17 million towards the tail end of that contract, so it goes down. Whereas, Kemba's goes in the other direction. So it's tough. Those are sort of the option. But I don't think that this ownership is in a space where they're thinking that, let's go full rebuild here. No, they're trying to say this thing on the fly. And what I mean by that is keep these superstars, or these all-stars rather, in tune and entertained, because they've never been through a first-round knockout. And they're not quite sure where the direction this team is going.
I got to ask, man. So throughout this whole season, a big hot topic on this podcast has been management and coach or the players. Who's to blame? Who's going to blow up first? What's going to happen? They're going to trade the players. They're going to fire this and fire Danny and fire Brad. How relieved are you as a basketball fan or a basketball guy that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are the ones that this organization chose? They recognized that basketball talent and didn't go the management route and try and save the coach or save the GM.
Yeah, they did the right thing. I mean, I'm relieved, but I'm also not that surprised, right? I mean, the NBA, like organizations, they've seen this story before. They see how things can get sour, when you try to, go the other way and not try to please these guys. It's funny, man. One of these older guys, someone in the industry reached out to me and was just like, man, these players, they're going to handle it. They're going to handpick their coach, and they're going to, handpick who they want to play with, and they're going to go win a championship. I was like, where have you been? Yes, this is the NBA. Like,
hell yeah, they're going to do that.
What did the Brooklyn Nets, what did they do last summer? That's exactly what they did, no? Like, what did LeBron and Rich Paul do 2 years before he left Cleveland? Set up shop in LA. I mean, little by little, make sure that Anthony Davis wasn't going to get traded to Boston because Rich Paul put the word out. You'll be wasting your assets for nothing, for 1 year rental. So, listen, this organization is, man, for a team that's been thrown so many curveballs. I mean, talk about a Celtics team that's still relevant and still has 2 stars that are obviously on the up and up, haven't even entered their prime. I mean, that just says a lot about Danny Ainge. And because this move was so shocking, I feel like he didn't get his proper, salute for his last 18 years of service, man. Because people can say what they want about the last 2 or 3 years. Those obviously weren't him at his best. But from bringing a championship to staying relevant, squeezing out that big 3 of Pierce, Garnett, and Ray Allen, to having one drop-off year, technically 2 years, even though that second year, Brad Stevens, you made the postseason when you weren't supposed to. I mean, he turned this thing around quicker than anyone expected. And now I know it's frustrating that we're not able to see this team get back to the NBA Finals where it seemed like they were so close. But, this is just the position that they're in, and they're just trying to rebound as best as they can.
Right. So, I mean, let's keep the theme with just surrounding them with talent. So obviously we know Tatum and Brown in the future. So I know free agency doesn't start until August 1st, I believe. So, who do you think they should go after them? Because clearly I feel like shooting to me is the number one thing, but how do they improve their roster to make this team contenders next year?
It's interesting. I mean, I don't know if how high on the list Evan Fournier is, but I mean, I think he's a piece that the Celtics have to really consider. It's just going to cost them a lot, and I think that ultimately they may pass or at least they may be, trumped by another team. So, when you talk about potential free agents out there, I mean, they don't have a whole lot of cap space. So I think for the most part, they're going to try to do the best they can on the trade front, trying to consolidate these guys, Grant Williams and, guys that are on that bench. I'm not saying that they're going to be able to deal these guys, but I think that they have to do their best to just give those guys, whether it's a shooter or a secondary playmaker, that's going to make a big difference. Because I don't know, man, if you're unable to trade Kemba Walker, I think your backcourt gets significantly thin. I mean, it already was thin, right? So it's tough. But then you look for outside shooting, and, someone like Tim Hardaway Jr. was someone that, I think would be great on this team. But I mean, it's just, they don't have a whole lot of money to play with, man. They got to get really creative. I mean, you can shade, they still have the MLE, which I believe it's about 10, 11 million left on that. There is an expiration on that, but you still have a couple of months. So they're going to try their best there. But it's difficult to say. And I think that signing or no signing is going to really, tell us what direction they're going in. And if he does stick around, you're not going to see much movement after that. But if he doesn't, I think the Celtics is going to be very aggressive on the trade front for sure.
Right, but with Grossman, he can't come out here and quote 50 Cent, right? Like, oh, we're going to get Banner 18 or die trying. You can't quote 50 Cent and not have your ass all in. So I'm sorry.
How much of the tax you going to pay? How much of that tax?
Yeah, but that's what he kept talking about, though. He said, oh, we're willing to spend. So, okay, you, Rich Gotham, Mike Zane, okay, well, get your ass in the room and start talking about what you can do. Because at this moment, you need to go all in. If you're quoting 50 Cent saying we're going to get Banner 18 or die trying, there's something needs to happen. So whether that's re-signing Fournier, which I agree, to me, the only suitor outside of Boston maybe would be, he looks like a San Antonio Spur. Like he did that to me. he just screams to me. He's a 6'7" Tony Parker. Yeah, the Knicks would be cool. Cause I know they were in on or tried to get Hayward last year, but obviously,
they were trying to trade for. Yeah, that's true. They were trying to trade for Fournier, but right before the deadline, if I'm not mistaken, the Celtics swooped in. So. That could happen.
Yeah. And like I said, we probably could have had Fournier and Gordon, but, we didn't want to give up Marcus Smart. So I heard. So we heard. We don't know. I mean, you're more plugged in than we are, but I'm just like, you didn't want to give Marcus Smart. We could have got maybe both of them guys back. Like, who knows what could have happened if, if both of the guys were on the team. But, yeah, I don't know, man. To me, with Grossberg, it's time to put up or shut up, dog. Like, you can't come in there trying to be all smiles and give all these bells and whistles to Trenny on the network, but not say what you – so back up what you say what you mean what you say, and bring some real talent here. So just like on the championship team, you brought in Posey, you brought in PJ Brown, you brought in Eddie House, you brought in Rasheed Wallace, you brought in guys that were ready, veterans, made players already in this league. Like, they got to do that now. And I know we talked about Shemi last time I came on here. I was clowning Shemi, and he was like, man, that might be the guy you hate now. So yeah, I can't stand him. But honestly, I feel like listen, Carson, Tremont Waters, and Taco, I'm done. Listen, I know it's the fan favorite thing. We want Taco. Don't fucking yell, we want Taco
You just mentioned
they're not
three G
players.
Leaguers, my man. Like, I don't blame
That's
you.
what I'm saying. They got to go. They got to go. That's what I'm saying. That's crazy. They could play a Franklin Park with you and me. That's wild. That's wild. I'm like, that's not working. I'm sorry. I can't do it.
Yo, if Taco pulled up, that would be wild. If Taco pulled up, man.
But exactly, facts, right? But I'm like, Taco's a sideshow. And like I said, as much as I think he's a great guy, I think he's improved, but I just saw a guy that Taco should be, and he plays in Dallas, and that's Boban Marjanovic. If he became that,
that guy was falling.
I can take that, but
he's still a project.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's 2 years from being 2 years away, and that's a problem still. So he's a waste of roster space.
I gotta say, I don't think Wick knew he was quoting 50 Cent. Just for the record, we're good.
Right, facts.
Someone nodded his head. He turned around. Was like, "You like that? That was good, huh?" Everyone's like, "It's the oldest line in the book, my guy." He's like, "What do you mean?" He like, someone told him after the fact. Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, that's probably. But no, man. You know, I also think that Jaylen Brown and Tatum. I mean, I don't know, man. They gotta like. And I've been saying this all year. And sometimes I get crap from Celtics fans, and sometimes depending on how they're feeling, they're like, they gotta make it like. I don't know, make it seem fun. Like, you guys like playing with each other? Do you guys look forward to, like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I don't, sometimes I struggle wording it the way I want it to sound, but it's just like, I want that, like, okay, you remember Antoine Walker and Paul Pierce?
Yep.
Yep.
That was fun.
Man, those guys, they were barely 500 some seasons. That one year they did the thing, but for the most part, you know, they were always like, the damn Celtics, are they ever going to do anything? But boy, those two had fun, right? I mean, you saw them handshaking and all this stuff. And, you know, obviously Walker had the wiggle and obviously they were both getting theirs, but it didn't seem like they were just out to get theirs, you know? And sometimes I get that sense with Tatum and Brown. Like, they're just out to get theirs. And that doesn't mean that they don't care about winning, but I just think the way they see winning is like, I got to do my absolute best for this team to win. Whereas it's like, as you get older, and it's going to happen to them, they're going to realize, no, to reach that next level, it's not, I don't have to go out and score 50. I have to find out, how can we make this team as strong as possible, as difficult as possible for opposing squads. You know what I mean, that's really what it is, right? It's almost like a young LeBron in those years where he couldn't get over the hump against the Celtics, where it's just like, oh, I got to do this, until he finally realized, wait, no, I got to set up other guys, because half of these guys are wide the F open. You know what I mean? Like, and look, I just think their relationship on the basketball court, it makes a difference. I mean, like, guys can look to that all-star tandem and say, you know what, I can help those guys. Those guys are one player away from knocking off the Nets. You know, I want to join those guys. So I really do think the relationship is just important. It just gives off the right vibe. I mean, I made this joke that if I was an all-star weekend and I saw them, if I was like, you know, perennial all-star, I would talk so much shit to them. I would be like, oh, look, it's the 500 all-star crew. Look, it's the all-star tandem that they can't put together a winning record in the East. They're like, what's wrong with y'all, man? Like, I would give them so much crap if I was, you know, LeBron, or, you know, one of these, maybe not LeBron, but, you know, someone that's been there like all the time. Because, you know, a lot of teams in the NBA would kill for something like that. Two rising all-stars, you know, under 25. And again, it just seems like sometimes, man, they just like, it's like a pickup game out there, and they're both getting theirs, and it's great, and their stats are damn near identical some nights. But it's just like, man, how the record is 500. So what's going on? You know,
to your point, right? It's like, you want to be a player that looks at those two and not only says like, I can make them better, but like, damn, they could elevate my game, right? That's how you get people, because if they say those two would make me better, then they're buying into the entire process. But like to your point, like, why do you think it is? Is it because they're reluctant to show emotion, or like Jaylen doesn't want to step on Jason's toes for being the leader, or vice versa? Like, why is it that when they're on the court, not all the time, but most times, it feels like they're just going through the court general emotions? You know what I mean? Like, I have to do this, I have to do this.
I just think it's their background. I mean, these guys came up, and again, winning situations. And I don't say that, you know, to knock them, like, oh, you guys don't know what it's like to struggle. But I just think they both come from backgrounds where that was their job. They went there and scored, and they went and they were the guy. And I don't know, maybe the AAU, you know, the AAU culture didn't help with that coming up in high school, where you played with some of the top guys in the country, and you know, beat teams by 45 points, and you come into the NBA, and sure, you're not one of the top guys, but you're in a winning situation, and the pressure is not on to you that much, you know? I always tell the story about being out in Cleveland when, Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward were set to make their debut, and there wasn't one single reporter next to Tatum as I asked him questions. Like, it was just like everyone just hovered up because there was no pressure, man. Like, they didn't have to deal with that. That didn't really set in until this year. And this was the year that was the most, it was a struggle. And it was a struggle for everybody. It wasn't just the Celtics, it was a tough year. I mean, we got to face it, guys. When the NBA looks back on this season, they're going to be like, man, that was not a good idea. That was not a good idea to have these guys playing every other night. What they did to their bodies. Every team is dealing with injuries right now, and the Celtics obviously dealt with it the most. And, going into next season, I think that the NBA will do a better job of, trying to get more rest in and trying to make sure that these guys, are taking care of their bodies better than they did this past season, because it was grueling. It was tough. But, coming back from what happened and this offseason refreshed, I can't wait to see at least just these two, how they're going to respond, what their relationship is going to look like on that basketball court, because it's going to make all the difference.
Yeah, man. And so I think so we keep talking about the relationship between these two, and that they do like to play ISO together. They're like, you take a turn, I take a turn. Mm-hmm. You take a turn, I take a turn.
You go and I go. You go and I go.
Yeah, that's how it seems like they operate like that, especially when they get into that stale offense like they did so much this year, whereas like they feel like they're struggling for buckets. That's when they go to ISO. Do you think a point guard, I'm going to bring him up just because I love him, Rayshawn Rondo, someone that style, maybe not him, but someone like Rondo, who's just going to be the general, like these two guys wouldn't have to bring up the ball every time. They could just work to get their shot. Rondo feeds them, and that's all she wrote. Do you think someone like that could be someone that could merge their two games and even let them keep playing the game they're comfortable playing, but like be successful doing it?
100%. I would love that. I would love to see Rayshawn Rondo back still today. I mean, I feel like this conversation comes up. It's been brought up at least, twice. It's like every offseason, should the Celtics get him back, just to have someone in there. And I think now more than ever, for a couple of reasons. One is, his experience and his voice in that locker room and on the court. I mean, can you name another guy that could just his approach with LeBron James during the playoffs last year in a bubble? I mean, like, even after they won, I was like, there's no way he's gonna stick around. LeBron's like, I can't do it. This dude just says whatever he wants and just like he just controls everything. Like, I can't be having this. Like, I appreciate it, Ron. I appreciate you, but let's get straight. I think someone like that in Boston with these guys, they're gonna be all ears. And you know what? It's not just about, oh, you got to do this or you got to do that. I think it's genuine. Like Rondo, when he's dealing with a younger guy, even with the Celtics, and before he left, it was genuine when he got into these guys. People believed in him, and I think that would be a great addition. If that's a possibility, and if I'm the Celtics, man, I would really look into it for sure. Because again, they're going to need to address that backcourt one way or another. Peyton Pritchard's not ready to be a starting point guard. I don't hate Marcus Smart in that spot, but he's got to have someone else in there in the mix for sure.
No, that's it. It can't be Marcus. No, not Marcus. I'm sorry. No, not all the time. Anyways.
Yeah.
Imagine Chauncey as head coach with Rayshawn Rondo.
Oh man, so much knowledge.
This team, man. Like, let's go.
So much IQ.
Yeah, that gets me fired up. Let's go.
Yo, just imagine
I'm all for it, man. Yeah, let's go. I'm ready.
Just imagine like all the IQ in that locker room. Like if someone just pulled the chessboard out, like what? Jaylen Brown, you guys Rayshawn Rondo. Right, so much high basketball IQ and just IQ in general, man. Could definitely go a long way for this team.
Can I ask the one question, Ray? Because this is either going to validate me or it's going to make me look like the idiot that we all know that I am. I have been pushing for a guy like Russell Westbrook on this team because he's an animal. Like he's a lunatic, and I don't think that I think he would control and dictate the pace for Jalen and for Jason. Am I insane for thinking that Russell Westbrook would make us better than what we currently are?
Nah, man. I like it too, man. I like it too. Yo, you and I, we're in the minority, man. Because no one wants to hear that right now. But I mean, it's just that would be tough, man. That would be tough. Some speculation was that if the Celtics, if they get really ballsy, they could get that backcourt and trade for Jaylen Brown. And I'm like, they're not doing that. Washington's not doing it. But yeah, to answer your question, I would
for Jaylen Brown. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. So internet's getting crazy. Yeah. Someone put that out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And obviously Kemba would have to go the other way too.
Sure. Yes. See, okay, yeah.
But if you're Washington, you're just gonna be like, "Wow, are we just gonna give up? We're giving up already?" All right, it's tough. I think they're gonna try to give this another go to try to appease these guys because that playoff push, I don't think they saw that coming, and they want to see more of that. But yeah, I mean, in theory, I do like it. And if he were to demand a trade and somehow the Celtics try to do it for Kemba, yeah, sign me up. But again, it's back to what we were saying earlier. Right? The conversation starts with Jaylen Brown, and I don't want to see Celtics do that for Russell Westbrook. I just don't want to see them do it in general, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, they could do it for Devin Booker. They make about the same. They're the same age. I mean, I know Phoenix would be ridiculous to do that. But I mean, that's one of the few guys I'm like, okay, if you want Jaylen Brown and let's say they're the same age, Devin Booker and Tatum, which Tatum talked about, he wanted to play with Booker anyway, but he said it on All the Smoke. He was like, yeah, I thought I was going to Phoenix and we were going to hoop together. Yeah, it was going to be the light-skinned assassins, but but I mean, it just didn't work out. It didn't work out that way.
Yeah, Phoenix. Oh, yeah. I was going to say Phoenix messed up in the draft, but even not getting Tatum, they really messed up. But,
yeah.
Right. So I wanted to switch gears for a little bit. Let's be a little more serious, man. But obviously, NBA fans are wilding. Like, we're seeing stuff in Philadelphia. We saw stuff here in Boston, obviously. Obviously we know what's going on in Utah in the past. And, something happened with, I think, with Ja Morant's father, if I'm not mistaken. So, obviously, Trae Young getting spit at MSG. So, what do you think the NBA could do or should do when it comes to ensuring player safety? Because right now, fans just seem they didn't want to be assholes, just assholes all around. So, how do you feel they should go about ensuring player safety?
Height and security is always something I think that makes a big difference. I know it doesn't sound like it does, but just the mere presence. I mean, there's no place for that, man. Like these guys, these spectators, they go in just because you buy a ticket doesn't mean that you can do stuff like that. And I get it. People haven't been out for a while, had a lot to drink, but so what? I mean, you got to hold these guys accountable. And I like that these names are printed in the newspapers, and we know this guy's from Braintree that threw that water bottle at Kyrie Irving. The way Russell Westbrook reacted to that fan, I mean, like, you feel for him. It's some idiot on the Boston radio station was like, oh, this is going to come up bad. But he goes, oh, it's just popcorn. I'm like, what? It's just popcorn. Like, yo, you don't have the right to throw anything at these guys, And of course, the racial aspect of it is of course relevant because the historical, just in terms of Black athletes and entertainers, a lot of what Kyrie said is very on point. I just wasn't crazy about the vehicle he used to deliver his point. If you know what I mean.
Right. Exactly. And that was my issue too.
And if you're going to tell the story, Kyrie, tell the whole story. Okay. You
Right.
can't talk about that, especially with sports. And you're not going to mention Bill Russell and Red Auerbach and, what Red Auerbach meant to the game of basketball in the NBA and the Celtics and starting 5 Black, players for the first time, hiring the first Black coach. I mean, I just thought it was a bit off-putting. But I mean, obviously, no one was listening to what he was saying, being like, "Oh, this is ridiculous." Like, yeah, it's true, but it was just a bit of a low blow. I guess is the best way to put it in a way. It was like, yeah, you're gonna point at the city's background and all that stuff because you're trying to gain leverage in a series. I thought he was trying to gain leverage a bit, and you know what? I mean, in the playoffs in the best 7 series, you're gonna do the best you can to look for leverage. I just thought again, it was a little bit of a low blow. I mean, it's a sensitive topic, but it is what it is. I wasn't one of these guys that was like, oh, Kyrie was out of line for that. No, he was doing what he does in the playoffs, and that's what NBA stars do and try to gain an advantage. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, man, yeah, there's just no place for that. I mean, you high insecurity, and I guess you just really call these guys out. I think that's it right there. Because nowadays with social media, once your name gets out there and people know what you look like, I mean, it's just a bad look.
In terms of like in the arena, like, do you do what Brooklyn does? Because like they have not only like the state, like the theater lighting, but if you notice, like there's not a lot of courtside seats anymore. I don't know if that's because of COVID, but they have that like it's like the LED light board behind where the players. So do you remove access to the court for fans? Is that something that you think the NBA could do, or would they be too scared to lose out on revenue for that?
Yeah, they're too scared to lose out on revenue, man. They're trying to come up. They got the Garden selling burgers for like $20 right now, man. It's crazy. The concessions are crazy. But yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll do that. Honestly, if anything, most arenas are trying to add. That's what the Garden did. Just before the shutdown. But yeah, I mean, I just think that the national media having bringing light to it and talking about it constantly, I think that helps for sure. And hopefully this doesn't continue to be a trend into next season.
Listen, I'll tell you one thing. If people weren't running it or throwing stuff at athletes after Ron Artest went up 20 rows and beat someone's ass, okay?
Yeah, right.
Just saying, let one of these NBA players one free shot at someone who throws something at them. Like it would be in normal life. And I promise you, no one will be throwing anything anymore.
And it's got to be Russ, though. It's got to be Russell Westbrook. Like,
yes.
It can't be. It has to be him.
If Russell Westbrook walked by you on the street and you dumped popcorn on him, I guarantee you that would be the last thing you ever did in your entire life.
Oh, that's
yeah. Westbrook is the type of person. I think Westbrook's the type of person that he will beat someone's ass and then rant about it for 30 minutes. All right, man.
He will stand over you and tell you how he beat your ass, right?
Yeah. And why you shouldn't have done it. You know?
Yeah. Listen. I say that phrase. I'm here for it. And I say that all the time. I'd have been here for that. I wouldn't have been mad at that. You know,
people don't like Westbrook because of his attitude sometimes, and the I don't know. I guess the way he plays, but I love it. He's one of my favorite players to watch, man. It's been that way for the last few years. Yeah, that's somebody who he goes out there, he's just playing. He's doing his thing, and don't talk about how much money these guys make and all that stuff. It's about respect at the end of the day, man. Treat these guys with respect.
So we'll bring it back to the Celtics, but obviously we're going into the 2021-2022 season. So just real quick, as a quick hitter, what are your early bold predictions for the Celtics next year?
Oh man, you mean like?
So what it could be roster stuff, it could be a record thing, it could be because we already exhausted the culture thing, but it could be a player that takes a leap, it could be someone that comes here that we don't think is coming. So something like that.
Man, I don't know, man. Honestly, I don't think too much crazy things are gonna happen, man. But that doesn't mean this is a bad thing, I do think they'll add a player or two, but I don't think it's going to be like this huge splash that people are like, oh, okay, here we go, Celtics. They're going to be a top team out there. I think this is going to be more about, okay, when we were healthy, there was a lot of positive takeaways, and let's expound on that. Let's try to get that. Hopefully the injuries will be out of the way. They're thinking, and without the guys missing games because of COVID-19 health and safety protocol, I just think that they believe in these guys, the core and some of these younger players. So, and when you think about the cap space and how restricted they are, I mean, if that doesn't happen, I would say maybe they find a way to trade Kemba, but it's not going to be, maybe it's one of those guys that I mentioned, whether it's Al Horford or Porzingis, but I mean, chances are, I think he stays, I think he stays until at least they can showcase him a bit more, and maybe you try to flip him during the offseason. During the before the trade deadline. But that's even tougher. So I don't know. If I had to predict it, they're unable to move Kemba. People always want to talk about Al Horford, and no one thought that the Philadelphia 76ers would be able to move that, but it's just so different, right? We're talking about an undersized guard, 31. All these problems are rattling up recently. It's just going to scare away a lot of teams.
Horford was older, though. Horford's going to be 35. So he's going to be 35. Actually, he might be 35 this month.
What's that?
Yeah. That's true. That's true. But I feel like people thought that he sucked, that it was over in Philly, and then he came out. He was still hooping in OKC.
OKC was like, well, we don't want
you're doing,
come on.
Right, you're doing too much. Like, we want Cade Cunningham here.
That's not what we do around here, Al.
Right, yeah. Exactly. Well, I'll give my bold prediction. I feel like, and this probably, that's why we call it bold. They'll have a top 5 bench scoring wise next year. I'm gonna say that. Yep, I saw why. They're going to have a top 5 scoring bench. I'm going to say, so that means certain guys take a leap where they bring somebody here, but they're going to finally address the need for, bench scoring. Or the bench mob, as Marcus Morris Sr. used to call them a couple years ago, like when the bench was really good then. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I think they'll have exactly. So,
and the bench crew. Morris is one of my favorite, man. I spent a lot of time with Morris, man. That's a good dude.
Yeah, he's great. And so, I think they'll have a top 5 scorer bench for that's my bold prediction.
Last thing, and then we'll let you leave. I promise. I'm gonna make you make a bold prediction. Is Marcus Smart on the Celtics next season?
No. Oh, shoot.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No.
Hey, we got him on wax. We got him on wax saying that. Okay, cool.
I hope it doesn't happen, man. I am a Marcus Smart guy, but I think it might happen, guys. Because, again, we talk about the restriction of the cap, and that name still holds a lot of weight in the NBA, especially guys or teams, rather, that thinking that they just need one defensive stopper that could put them over the edge. Cool. And, one of these West Coast teams, you never know, man. Like, that energy and all that, and, that team-friendly contract, sure, it's expiring, but some team that's just looking to add an extra muscle, and they think that Marcus Smart is the guy,
But
you know
what I'm scared of though. I feel like
Could happen.
since you're saying that, what's going to happen? It's going to mess around and be like, dun-a-nut. The Celtics traded Marcus Smart to the LA Clippers for Patrick Beverley and Luke Kennard, and I'm gonna lose my shit. And I'm gonna be in your DM saying, I'm gonna be in your DM like, bro, I can't believe you called this shit. Like,
yo, that's so funny you say that. No, I'm dying laughing because that's so funny you say that because that's got Brad Stevens written all over.
That
Tell me you said it.
Fact.
As soon as I heard it, I was like, man, that sounds so realistic.
It's like, we got a guy that brings defensive toughness and versatility.
Add in Nicholas Batum, and it's all over.
Oh
bro.
God! But you know what though? It's funny. We were saying people were upset about that. Remember, we was like, "Oh man, I'm going to take Batum back for Hayward." Da da da. I mean, Batum was okay for them with the Clippers this season, so I'm like, but granted, he wouldn't have done that here. Like he was only okay because he was in LA. So that's that, man. So
Gallinari, man, it's like, where did that come from? Like, really? Like, he's doing this thing in Atlanta. Because that's funny you say that because those same names I was hearing the same thing. Oh, you could replace him with someone like this. You could replace him with someone like Gallinari. Hayward's. I'm like, no, I don't like either of those guys. And I didn't feel great about Hayward's health moving forward, and here we are. Shocker.
Right. I mean, exactly. I mean, that one was for you, Joe. Joe's one of our guys on the show. He's not here, but that was for you, Joe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, Bogdanovich was someone too, man. I mean, Milwaukee, miffed on that, but I mean, man, Bogdanovich healthy has changed their season.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the kind of guys Celtics will do their best to target, man. But yeah, that's such a Brad trade. Throw some picks in there. Clippers would do that.
Oh God, I know. I hope so.
That team needs a Marcus. That team needs a Marcus.
I know. I'm scared.
Yo, you're telling us not a Brad trade? That's such a Brad trade.
It is. But we're gonna have to close on that before I get any more emotional behind that. So
good way to close, man. Patrick Beverley, your newest Boston Celtics. Everyone.
So yeah, I can't. I'll go crazy.
By the way, people listening to this, if Marcus gets traded, don't say it's my fault. All right, I don't want. Okay. I just think, it could absolutely happen. That's a big chip on the table right now. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see who bites. We'll see which team bites. I mean, you have to. Like, Brad wouldn't be doing his proper due diligence if he didn't put him on the table, right? Like, you got to put some serious package deals together if you want to get something in return. So we'll see. Brad the GM, so weird. Which, by the way, before I get out of here, I want to make this clear. This is not long term. I don't think so. I really don't.
Yeah, Jeff Goodman said the same thing. He came on. It's not gonna.
No, 2 years max. Yeah, absolutely.
So
organization, the owners is like, look, Brad, this is the least you can do.
So who would replace him then?
You ain't going nowhere.
You got to get Sam Pressure if that's the case. Go get him. He's from here. Bring him here.
Man, that's a given, right? Okay, C's gonna be like, don't you think about it, Sam. Don't even.
Yeah, they would take Brad as the coach though. If Brad said I'll coach over there, they'll take that trade. Brad for Sam Pressure, they would do that. Kind of like how we got Doc over there, they would do that, in my opinion. And give them a couple picks, they'll be happy with that. Yeah,
I think by now, Brad's definitely refreshed on the Danny Ainge one-on-one. He knows how to trade some coaches. It wouldn't shock me, or make unorthodox trades that other organizations have never done. Right. Man, who does that? They traded Doc for some picks. I'm like, Danny would trade his mom. I swear, man. Like, he was that kind of dude. Salute to Danny Ainge, for real. Like that. I'll never forget this era. And I know you guys can say the same thing. I mean, come on, Kevin Garnett, like that kid, that teenager. That when that kid found out, he was, man. Let me tell you, incredible. Danny Ainge, man, for real. Like, people got out. It was so shocking that it just happened in a day, and that's it. But we got to salute him for sure, man, for bringing that championship and for this era that we're in right now.
Right, and that's the era. Right, I know. We could go.
I know it's my fault.
No, you good. You good, man. We good. We can keep going. We want to keep going, man. But no, but I think that you ended it good with the tribute to Danny Ainge. So Danny Ainge, 18 years up, 18 years down. You brought a championship, brought us here to another finals, Danny Ainge. So even though Right, Trent said
nobody was putting big three together before Danny. Come on,
yeah, exactly. At least not through trade, anyways.
He traded Markelle Fultz for Jason Tatum and got another first-round pick on top of it. Just throwing. That's literally the most lopsided trade ever. So
Danny straight up flipped the script twice, right? The big three thing, and then he showed what OKC's doing right now because they're taking a page out of his book.
Yep.
You stack up these draft picks. Slum it for a few years and come right back with guys like Jaylen Brown. I mean, that Brooklyn Nets trade, a lot of GMs wouldn't have had the sack to pull that trigger, man. And, obviously it was the right thing to do. Those future picks were it. That's what bridged the gap to this, man, to what we're in right now. So, yeah, man. Trendsetter. Man, Danny Ainge.
DA trendsetter. That's
Miami Heat fans should thank him. Golden State did it homegrown, so they did it.
Right, they're another good. Right, exactly. Right. So number 35 came over there. Right.
LeBron fans, you're welcome. All right.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Because we got old quickly, so they better be grateful. So, before we go further down the rabbit hole, we'll shut it down on that. But trendsetter DA, we thank you.
Trader Danny.
Right, Trader Danny. So for Josue Pavón, the real BK Bob Kelly, Magic Mike Marcangelo, and our executive producer, Craig D'Alessandro, this has been another episode of Missing the Point. And until next time, we'll see you. Peace.
Step inside the marketing mirror to uncover marketing secrets, discover gems, tactics, lessons, and campaigns you can use. Next gen or fundamentals. Grab the marketing magic to improve your marketing and win more business.
If you're a working professional wondering what's next for your career, you've come to the right place. Whether you're looking for a promotion, growth, or a potential career transition, look no further. With over 30 years working in a variety of industries, I share my insider knowledge with those ready to get ahead on Career Advancement with Craig Ansell. Tune in to get your strategies for success.
Electricast.